I think there's some good news when it comes to Chainlink. And what is that? That's allegedly not too long ago, it was announced that Chainlink has a partnership with MasterCard. Now, why is this even a big deal? Even though nothing I say is financial advice, it's because allegedly, kind of the gist of it is that quite essentially through this, it's connecting billions of cardholders to the blockchain economy. So that's very amazing because we got to think about how when it comes to Chainlink, I think it's a very fantastic project, right? It's mostly known for its decentralized Oracle network. And kind of seeing stuff like this, I can't necessarily say that it surprises me because I do believe in the fundamentals of Chainlink, but I think this is such an amazing step in the right direction because we have to consider the payments market is currently valued at over $2 trillion. So I think this type of stuff right here is really, gonna hypothetically allow for Chainlink to kind of solidify itself as one of these premier projects that's here to stay, and not something that's just kind of based off hype and just kind of like, random nonsense, if that makes sense. But even besides that point, some people out there may be wondering, okay, Link, right? Chainlink's native token. Why isn't the price doing this, doing that, despite this? Well, here's the thing. Stuff like this, especially let's say when it's not, necessarily the best for altcoins, it's not really going to showcase what it's capable of. Like in a sense that if let's say this happened during like a bull run for whatever reason, then in theory we could probably see a different scenario. But then again, if I take a look at all the bullish factors that we have in this space as of right now, if the markets overall aren't really allowing for that to kind of live up to its, I would say kind of name in a sense, it's not really going to showcase that much. So again, this type of stuff may not necessarily just kind of make Link randomly do this, do that, but then I think in the long term, this is really going to kind of play into the narrative of Chainlink because let's think about this. During a fully fledged bull run, people usually care about the narrative, they care about the story, they care about what the project is doing. They don't necessarily care about that when the project isn't doing the best. But then again, if the markets hypothetically do pick up, usually people pay attention to stuff like this, at least in my perspective. Not to mention, what I like about Chainlink is that they're doing this type of stuff right now, and other projects out there, they only want to do things when the market is doing good. But then that's a little bit kind of questionable in some cases because where's the longevity in that? I just don't get it. So I like this when it comes to Chainlink. Now let's say Link, its native token, hypothetically go into the price of $200 during a bull run. Would that surprise me? Even though there's no telling if it will ever even reach that, this wouldn't surprise me because again, like I mentioned earlier in the video, Chainlink, it's mostly known for its decentralized Oracle network. And let me explain what an Oracle is, just kind of in a very simple way because I think sometimes people overlook this, but I think it's actually very crucial. It's because an oracle, it's basically a data feed that brings data from off the chain. So that's called off-chain data. And then it brings that data over into the blockchain. Now, why is this even necessary in the first place? It's because without off-chain data, many decentralized applications out there, they can't function properly. So I kind of view it in my kind of perspective as somewhat the backbone to decentralized applications. And there are many decentralized applications out there. And it's only fair to assume that if I do believe in this space, if I do believe in the future of blockchain technology, why wouldn't I think that, hey, you know what, maybe there's going to be more decentralized applications that are going to pop up in the future, and maybe some of them, who knows, could they require the assistance, so to speak, of Chainlink? There's no guarantees, but Chainlink, I think, really could, kind of, I think, impact this space in a good way because it is kind of providing something crucial through its decentralized Oracle network, in my opinion. However, even besides that, Chainlink isn't necessarily like a one-trick pony because yes, it has that aspect, but then at the same time, it also has something called keepers, which allows developers to automate certain smart contract tasks and functions that do require off-chain data. Not to mention it has something called VRF, which stands for verifiable random function. Now, this is basically used for random number generation, and there are some use cases for that, like for instance in video games where they may require, random number generation. So that I think is pretty cool. Not to mention Chainlink has proof of reserve services. Now, proof of reserve, people may be thinking, okay, who cares about that? Well, I think it's necessary in some cases because let's say like an exchange or like, a stablecoin issuer, they want to showcase the amount of assets they're hypothetically holding, then again, something like proof of reserves could kind of showcase that. Again, Chainlink has, kind of a very diverse use case. I wouldn't say it's the most interesting or cool project out there because, of course, it's not like something that is I think, kind of hyped about in that sense. It is a pretty massive project. However, it doesn't have the hype of those, like, more fun, I would say, like blockchain gaming or like, AI, meme coins. I still like it. And I think it's a very, utility driven project. And that is something that I do believe in. Don't get me wrong. I still believe in like meme coins and, blockchain gaming projects, but I also want to believe in Chainlink too, because I want to use it as one of my foundational pieces in my portfolio. But even besides that, let's say Link were to go to the price of $200. Considering current circulating supply at that point, market cap would be around $136 billion, which is around a 14x from here. I'm totally aware of the fact that, some people out there, they may be thinking, whoa, that's a very massive market cap. But take a look at BNB. Back in 2021, that reached a market cap of over $100 billion. And we got to think about this. What is trying to do more, right, in the grand scheme of things? And in the 2021 bull run, even during the peak of that, there was around 300 million crypto owners. Now we have over 600 million. And that's currently right now, allegedly, according to Crypto.com research, which is supposedly more than ever before in history. So just imagine that. And I feel like, again, the factors right now are way more bullish than back then, at least in theory, because take a look at the hype about the Bitcoin ETF, the Ethereum ETF, take a look at the number of institutional, investors, enterprise adoption. So I just kind of feel that at least this time around, if we do ever see a fully fledged type of hypothetical altcoin season, it wouldn't surprise me if it was better than back then, if that makes sense, because the factors I think are just way more bullish. But then, because the markets overall aren't really kind of allowing for that to happen, it's not kind of able to showcase that. But let's say the markets did become hypothetically very good. I think maybe it could be a very good start to what we could very well assume to be a fully fledged type of hypothetical altcoin season, but who knows, only time will tell. And some people out there, they like to tell me, okay, why aren't altcoins peaking right now? Well, this is the way to take a look at it, even based off history. Because I cannot take a look into the future, right? I can only take a look at the present and the past. So I'm going to take a look at the past in this case. Usually altcoins, as a worst case scenario, they typically peak around 18 months after a Bitcoin halving event. The last Bitcoin halving event happened in April of last year. So yes, we're over a year removed, but we're not 18 months removed, right? That would actually mean around October this year. So then, if let's say the market conditions were pretty good, would we even see a peak of an altcoin season right now as a worst case scenario anyways? Maybe not based off that example, but who knows, right? I mean, history isn't always necessarily going to repeat itself. But I'm still staying patient because for me, the way I take a look at it is that this is a marathon, it's not a sprint. I cannot control anything beyond myself. So then what am I going to do? I'm going to just acquire, hold, and I just wait. Literally, that's it. I'm just dollar cost averaging and just waiting. It's kind of boring, I get it, but it's just what I do because some people out there, they like to ask me, hey, why don't you pull up a price chart, draw this thing, draw this thing? Well, here's the thing. No matter what I draw, like I draw a random triangle, like a line or whatever, a falling wedge pattern, it doesn't matter because do you think the market's going to pay attention to what I have to do? No, it's not going to care. I can draw a SpongeBob on the price chart. It's not going to care, right? So then why would I do that? I'd rather just focus on the fundamentals, take a look at what the project is doing. That's pretty much it. All I can do right now is just stay patient. And again, there's nothing else that I can do beyond that. But I'm just going to still believe in the projects that I do believe in. And when I see stuff like this, when it comes to Chainlink, again, regarding MasterCard, it is something that really excites me for the future. However, only time will tell. And feel free to subscribe if you enjoyed this video. I'd greatly appreciate it. It's been Lee the Captain, and I'll catch y'all on the next one. I'm on peace. Bye.